The Securities and Exchange Commission has launched a probate unclaimed monies awareness and investor clinic to reduce unclaimed dividends and other dormant investment assets. The move, according to SEC, is aimed at helping beneficiaries recover inherited investments and strengthen investor protection across Nigeria's capital market. Speaking at the opening of the investor clinic in Abuja, SEC Director General Dr. Emomotimi Agama said the initiative was designed to bridge the gap between investors' legal entitlements and their ability to access inherited shares, dividends, and other financial assets after the death of loved ones. To unpack this, I'm joined by Nkechinyelu Okoye, Acting Chief Executive Officer, Meristem, Registrars and Probate Services Limited. Thank you for joining us today.
Good morning.
Yeah, good morning to you. There are a plethora of reasons for which, people may not be able to access their dividends or even inheritances, things in that regard. I don't want us to start. Maybe we should begin by examining what can be done to reduce that and why that happens. Let's start from there before we then move on to the clinic.
Okay, good morning once again. There are so many reasons why we have a lot of unclaimed investments or unclaimed dividends in the market. And I think one of it is investor awareness. A lot of people have invested in the stock market, we are speaking to unclaimed dividend, and are not aware that these investments actually exist. Another set of people are the people who have passed on. So we have people who invested in shares and other financial assets and have passed on, and their beneficiaries, the loved ones that they have left behind, are not aware that their deceased family members actually made these investments, either because probably there's no will, or the investment was not open. It's not known to the family members, and there is no will or trust, any form of estate plan to actually reveal that these assets exist. Another reason why we have unclaimed dividends in the market is a lack of KYC. So we have investors who have invested and did not provide their correct details. So in the past, it wasn't compulsory to provide maybe your bank details. You could just invest with your name and your address and the likes. But over time, SEC, seeing the huge amount of unclaimed dividends, the market has moved from posting dividend warrants in the form of letters to actually saying, mandate your investment. Let's have your bank details, right? And then so that when companies declare dividends, these dividends can actually go in. But investors are yet to come up with these KYC details. Some people who have provided in the past have dormant accounts. So it's actually a whole lot of reasons, which is why one of the things that SEC is doing in this season is actually investor education, ensuring that investors are aware that these dividends exist, and then creating a transparent system whereby they can actually claim these dividends. And one of the initiatives is the probate clinic that we held last week in Abuja.
Yeah, that's quite interesting. So apart from the dividends, what about the inheritances? What do we do? How do we guard against those things? So somebody dies and then there's a lot of money somewhere, but relatives are not aware and they're probably languishing and all of those things. How do we guard against such happening?
Okay, so the first thing, right, well, after you have grieved, I don't think rushing to look for inheritance is the first step. But when you're ready, the first thing is to find out if the person had a will or not. Now, most people actually believe that if there's no will, then the investment is lost, which is not correct. Once you have documentary evidence that these assets exist, again, it boils down to knowledge. So if you probably see a share certificate, something showing ownership of shares, if you get to see maybe a bank statement or a statement from a financial house, probably showing that a mutual fund exists, or even open the person's phone and you see that the person has Piggyvest app, Carrywise, Wealth Body, something to show that there is some form of asset, the first thing you need to do is to contact a legal advisor or somebody who has the knowledge to guide you through that process. It could be lawyers, it could be institutions such as Meristem. We also offer probate services, yes. So it could also be, or you could write to SEC to say, I have discovered these investments, I do not know how to go about it. SEC will direct you to the right channel. Or you walk up to any probate court. There are probate courts around our jurisdictions. You could walk up to any probate court to say, I have discovered this. The probate court is responsible for providing the legal documents to transfer the assets from the deceased person to the beneficiaries. So they would also guide you through the process. But I think the first step most people do is to contact a lawyer, which is still fine. But when you see those things, don't ignore. And then again, and some people just feel like the money is small. sometimes we see people who say, oh, the value of the shares is not up to ₦1 million. What do I need it for, right? All these things actually contribute to the unclaimed, because 500K here, 200K here, by the time you gather it together, it's
and then
billions
compounding
of naira.
actually at the end of the day. So,
exactly.
I mean, what was worth ₦1 million last year could be worth maybe 2 million or 3 million in the next 2 years.
Thank you very much.
That happens a lot.
Yes.
It happens a lot, so we have to. Now, SEC is actually taking the bull by the horn, and maybe we also, pipe down the calling of names, mentioning of brands and all of those things. Yeah. Now, SEC is taking the bull by the horn by launching a probate, Unclaimed Monies awareness and investor clinic. I'd like you to talk to us about this. How does it really work?
So, like I said, it's just one of the initiatives which to provide awareness to investors. So we realize that we are capital market operators, right? And then SEC is our regulator. So we realize that within the capital market space, there are dormant investments, not necessarily dividends. So let us even look at banks. You have a lot of dormant accounts with funds in them and nobody is coming forward. Sometimes those people are actually deceased, but their family members do not know that these things...
We really need to deal with this thing.
Yes.
How do you have an investment, you have monies, and nobody knows in your family?
It's the human factor.
No,
so
it's
we have
wrong,
people
right?
who, which is why one of the things that SEC is doing is to say, look, be a responsible investor.
Yeah.
Don't put your money somewhere and nobody knows. The least you can do is to create a will. And like I always say, the moment you start earning, you need to have an estate plan. Don't just see it as, oh, I just have 2 million naira in the bank. It's not in law. We are not in charge of our lives. Yes, we all want to live longer, but anything can happen, right? And so if you do not have even a simple will, there's something in the capital market that we call simple will. You don't need to have a lot. If you do not have that, you will pass on and nobody knows, right? Some people, Nigerian factor, some men, women invest and they don't want to tell their spouse. It's okay, but can you tell a sibling? And then whilst investing, your KYC details must be complete. Who do we contact? Your next of kin information must be complete.
And even beneficiaries in some cases.
Yes, but beneficiaries do not have direct access. They will still need to go through the probate route. Yes, so you can name who your beneficiary is, fine, but no institution would act on it just because you listed. They need that legal document from the probate court, either a grant of probate if there's a will, or letters of administration if there is no will. That document has to be provided before your beneficiaries can actually gain access to that. So yes, so I think
that's
it's
interesting.
well down to being a responsible investor. Being
a responsible investor.
Yes.
I'll remember that one. Okay, so apart from that, I want us to move away from this because I've heard parents say they probably want to help their young children invest in the capital market. How do you go about this, really?
You can. There's provision for that, right? All forms of investments, there's provision for a minor. At the point of opening the account, whether it's a bank account, whether it's mutual funds, whether it's bonds, whether it's shares, on the form you're filling, electronically or physically, you would be required to state if this person is a minor. So you provide the person's details, but you as the parent, you would also need to provide your own details. And when the person comes of age, there are processes to actually hand over these investments back to the child once the child crosses 18 years of age. Yes. So the financial institution responsible for that particular investment would guide you through the process to hand it back. But you can, even if it's a newborn baby. In fact, some people invest ahead of, so the child is yet to come to this world, but they have already started creating investments for that child. So yes. And one of the things that the DJ actually spoke about, right, that the moment you give birth, start with a mutual fund. As low as 10,000 naira, and in some institutions, 5,000 naira, it differs, right? So start with that, start creating that investment for that child. So it's very, very possible.
All right, that's interesting. Let's talk about this. I wanted to give us guidance. I know you've talked about it earlier, but I wanted to be more direct now, more like practical guidance on probate procedures, documentation, requirements, things in that regard.
So the first step is to get the document. Nobody would attend to you based on word of mouth. So if it's a bank account, do you have access, maybe checkbook, ATM card, a bank alert if you have access to the person's phone, bank statement, something to actually show that this person is the owner, and then a death certificate. In fact, the death certificate is the first thing from the National Population Commission. not just from the hospital, but from the National Population Commission, get the death certificate. They would verify that that person is actually dead. So that's the first thing. And then the documents for the assets. If it shares if there's dividend warrants, like we used to do in those days, if there's CSCS statements, if you have share certificates, you provide that. If it's landed properties, right, we are the documents. So the first step is to get the death certificate from the NPC. The hospital would ordinarily issue you one, but you take that to the NPC, you get one, and then you get the documents for the assets showing evidence of ownership, and the names have to match, right? So once you provide that, then whoever it is, you can go around the financial institution. So once you provide that, you apply at the probate court to say this person XYZ has passed, and then probably without a will, and then we would like to start the process to gain access to these assets. Then the probate court issues you a form and something called...
Can anybody just go, or is it the next of kin?
You can, because the probate court will still do their due diligence.
Okay.
They will still do that. So I'm coming to that. So once you're done with the...
Before an outsider goes.
Yeah, so the probate court would actually... There is a stage in the probate process called the interview process.
Okay.
Everybody who claims, oh, this person is my father, my mother, family member, you would show up at the probate court and they would ask questions. And it is not just anybody. They have their rank. So if someone is of age and has passed on, is the person married? Does the person have children? Where's the spouse? Why are you the one coming, right? The person's parents, even before you talk of siblings of the same blood, then half blood. So they have their rank. Not just anybody can walk up to the probate court. And even if you try to game the system, at the interview stage, you would be found out. So basically, so after the first phase, then you begin, it's a whole lot of processes in between, but it's actually seamless. Sometimes people get scared that it's a very lengthy process, but it's not. It's actually not lengthy. It may seem lengthy if the assets are a lot, but within, if all the administrators to the estates, family members, for lack of a better word, agree and provide their KYC details as and when the probate court requests for it, show up for interview, within 3 to 6 months, you should be done.
All right, that's interesting. Then finally, a particular site was sort of put out for people to just probably type in their names and then confirm if they have unclaimed dividends and all of those things. I mean, I sort of checked and I saw a lot of family members that some I don't even talk to, maybe distant relatives. Yeah. So what do you do when you see those things? So
when you see the names, most times you would also see the name of the registrar.
Yes, yes.
The capital market registrars are responsible to maintain shareholders' records for all the companies under their portfolio. So once you see that, if you click on it, it takes you straight to their website. It takes you to the e-dividend portal where you would actually apply. That portal created by SEC is to show those who are yet to claim their dividends. So once you click on it and you can see the name, you click on the registrars, it takes you straight to the link where you would apply for the dividend. You could also Google the name of the registrars. Probably you want more information. You would see all registrars have websites. They have phone numbers. They have physical offices, especially here in Lagos. So you could reach out to them. And if you're not in Lagos, you could send an email or call. Then there is also the Institute of Capital Market Registrars, so you could also write to them. Okay. And then they will lead you to the particular registrar.
All right. Thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing your thoughts with us. All right.